Welcome back. I'm excited to talk to you today about the third unavoidable. The first being death, then taxes, of course. But today, let's talk about required minimum distributions. And many times, clients ask me, what's the best way to start taking them out, whether it be on a monthly basis or just one time on an annual basis? Because once you start, you have to take care of these RMDs every single year. Well, let's talk about it. I thought it might be fun to represent the two ends of the spectrum with our two avatars today. Monthly Molly and annual Adam. I have clients that fit in both ends of the spectrum, so let's talk about the pros and cons of those today. But first, it's probably helpful to understand, let's zoom out and say, what is an RMD, a required minimum distribution? Well, simply put, required minimum distribution is the amount that you have to take out, required by the IRS from certain types of accounts, such as a 401k, 403b, 457b, and a variety of types of IRAs, such as a traditional IRA, simple IRA, SEP IRA, the list goes on. Now, the IRS has allowed us to contribute to these types of accounts over our lifetime, but in our retired years, they say, enough's enough. We need you to take this money out because we're anxious to tax you on it, whether you want to take it out or not. And so the RMD is a schedule, very specific schedule that the IRS has set up to say, starting at a certain age, you have to take a certain amount out, and that amount actually increases every single year for the rest of your life. Now, as a caveat, I need to say that an inherited IRA also has RMDs, but that is calculated on a different schedule than these type of RMDs we're talking today. However, the base assumption of whether it's better to take it out on a monthly basis gradually throughout the year or one time on an annual basis still applies whether you're taking RMDs for an personal IRA or perhaps an inherited IRA. So unless you've started your RMDs already, your question may be, when do I start? Good question. Well, in years past, it used to be at your age 70 and a half. Then the Secure Act of 2020 changed that to be at your age 72. And the Secure Act 2.0 recently changed that to start at age 73. Let's just assume for today's example that we're talking about an individual who's starting their RMD very soon, born between the years 1951 and 1959. Secure Act 2.0 made the caveat that if you're born in 1960 or later, you're going to start your RMD at age 75. So remember when I said that there's a very specific schedule associated with how much you have to take out. We're just going to focus on the first several years here, and specifically on age 73. And let's assume for our example today that we have a $1 million IRA. Well, at age 73, you calculate it by dividing the balance of your account by the distribution period, in our case, 26.5. I like to make it simple for people to understand, and I put that in percentage terms. It's not to the dollar, but when I calculate it for clients, I do the distribution period. But applying for today's example to make it simple, we apply the $1 million balance against the percentage for that year. Now, that calculation is based on the balance of your IRA on the last day of the prior year. So we're in the year 2024 right now. No matter how the market does for the entire year, your RMD is based on December 31st, 2023. Okay, so whether there's a good year, like we've had so far in 2024 in the stock market, or a poor year, like in 2022, your RMD is the same amount. Okay, so at that point, applying that percentage against the $1 million, we got roughly a $37,800 RMD to decide with this amount, how do we take it out? Now, I have clients that fit in the buckets of taking it on a monthly basis or an annual basis. So I thought it'd be fun to just summarize their experiences between annual Adam and monthly Molly. Let's start with annual Adam. Annual Adam is the type of a person who doesn't depend on his RMD for income needs. He doesn't need to get from month to month, perhaps for his gas, groceries, property taxes, trips, what have you. He prefers a one and done type of approach where he doesn't have to think about, hey, did I fulfill it yet? I'm getting towards the end of the year. Did I take care of this? Because by the way, if you don't take care of your RMD, the IRS slaps you with a 25% penalty. It used to be 50%, now 25%. If you rectify that mistake within 2 years, drop the 10% penalty. Either way, we don't like penalties because that's on top of your taxes you're paying on those RMDs in the first place. So he has a one and done mentality. And he also likes to be able to evaluate his taxes at the end of the year, because about the time that we meet with clients in our fall meeting, about October, November, we're looking at the entire year's worth of income. Perhaps they had an inheritance. They sold a significant piece of property. They started a job. A variety of things could happen to their income. And being able to look at your RMD at one time and withhold the taxes appropriately makes it simpler from a tax planning standpoint and less surprising in the end. Another advantage to doing a one-time RMD withdrawal is being able to evaluate your QCDs at the same time. QCD stands for Qualified Charitable Distribution. That's a way that you can do a charitable contribution from a pre-tax retirement account starting at your age 70 and a half. Yes, that's different than the age you start your RMD. So starting at age 70 and a half, I have many clients that say, I'm going to wait towards the end of the year to approach my RMD. And many of them are charitably minded. They'll make a donation to their church, perhaps do their tithing, and they're able to look at this chunk in their example around $37,000 and say, I'm going to donate X amount of dollars out of it, right? Again, this is somebody who isn't relying on this RMD withdrawal for their income. They're saying, I'm going to perhaps maximize my tax savings by donating a significant portion of this to a 501c3 corporation. Why? Because when you do that, you don't have to pay the taxes, and nor does the charitable organization. Yes, you're still making the withdrawal, but because it's going straight to another entity's pocket and not your own, you're not paying taxes on. So that's another advantage to evaluating your RMD all at once. And then finally, another large advantage I see many clients take is they just time the RMD withdrawal around an anticipated large lump sum expense. This could be timing around their property taxes when they're due. They know they're going to take a large trip, or sometimes just their birthday or their anniversary. But they like to get a little surprise on around the week of their birthday to get that RMD come in and treat themselves. So what are some cons associated with taking an RMD all at once? Well, there's the risk of timing of when you take it out from your account by way of where the market is. Now, I'm largely eschewing that topic as far as market timing, although others may address, hey, it's better to maximize your returns or maximize the account value by waiting till later in the year or beginning of the year, monthly. I don't approach that because I don't really feel that I like to time the market. I find that I don't know what the market's going to do. And frankly, I don't think anybody does. As you can see by my crystal ball on my desk, it's still cloudy. So, but there is the risk, nonetheless, that if you do a one-time withdrawal of your RMD, you might time it at a poor time in the stock market. You might say, hey, I'm going to wait towards the end of the year, and who knows, maybe the last quarter of the year is having a poor time. And you still got to take out that amount. Remember that RMD is fixed based on the account balance of where it was at the last day of the prior year. The other risk is that just as you had the advantage of doing a one and done strategy of doing the RMD all at once, there's the risk of a one and none strategy, meaning you forgot. And if you forget to do your RMD, you're incurring those penalties on top of the taxes themselves. Not something you really want to risk. If you're managing yourself for more of that risk, if you're working with a professional, then that's why you're hiring them, to make sure you don't forget. And then the third major risk that I sometimes see with clients is the risk to spend recklessly. I kind of joke if I'm at a backyard barbecue, if someone hands me a bowl of chips, I'm probably going to eat less chips than if they just handed me the whole bag of Lay's chips and said, here, right? So same thing with my income. If I see clients that take a large amount of income, maybe they spend a little less wisely than they would otherwise. Let's talk about monthly Molly. Monthly Molly likes to take out her RMDs throughout the year. Her primary characteristic is that she prefers predictability, consistency, and taking her required minimum distribution just as an income, not having to make decisions or think about when to take it or not to take it. It's just built into the system and it's spread evenly throughout the entire year. Another advantage that she enjoys is minimizing the market timing risk. As I said, with annual Adam taking out his RMD all at once, maybe he picked a poor month out of the year to wait to do it. Monthly Molly, in this case, she's taking a little bit out every month, and so she's getting the good and the bad, and kind of the opposite of dollar cost averaging as far as investing into the market over a spread out period of time. So those are the primary factors that are associated with the monthly Molly, taking it out throughout the year. What are some cons that are associated with that? Well, first of all, I know I said I wouldn't go into the nitty gritty as far as the numbers if you were to wait to take out your RMD later in the year versus earlier in the year. But that is a factor some people want to consider is if I wait later in the year, perhaps the IRA balance grows throughout the year. I tend to tell clients, don't worry about that. Don't stress about where the market is or isn't going to be. And instead focus your investment plan and your portfolio around your goals. and things you can control rather than things you cannot control. And another perhaps con that monthly MOE has to consider is that she doesn't have as much flexibility to take out an RMD all at once. Some clients say, hey, I'm just going to keep it in there and I'll wait till the end of the year. But it is an advantage to say, my car went out, roof needs to be replaced, tree fell in my shed, I have an unexpected large expense to take care of that perhaps their emergency funds don't cover, or they say, yeah, I need to take out this RMD anyway. Monthly Molly doesn't have that same flexibility because she's already programmed it into the system to say, I'm just going to take it out all throughout the year, come what may. Now, some people may ask, hey, you talked about monthly, you talked about annually. What about quarterly? Frankly, I see very, very few clients ever do this. The difference between taking it out quarterly versus the other two options really isn't that significant, and I find very few clients actually do that. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, feel free to subscribe and like the video so you'll be notified for future videos that I'm putting out. I'm trying to really put out free content to help you make the best decisions and help you retire well. Thank you so much. See you in the next one.